I want to say to the brothers behind me and to the brothers out there in the YouTube world, you know what I'm saying, from Freedom Lodge #1, Grandmaster Aten Ray.
What my story showed was that the cocaine that was being sold in those neighborhoods was coming from mainly one source, and this one source was being used to finance a guerrilla war in Central America. The general idea of the CIA dealing drugs was something that the American mainstream press had never written about before, and that's why it prompted outrage among blacks, among drug reform activists, among politicians, by the CIA, by every federal agency involved in the drug war because it showed they weren't doing their jobs, that it was a fraud.
I think all the gangs were heavy players in the drug trades because the cocaine explosion caused so much product to be out on the streets in Chicago. These traffickers needed somebody to move it, so naturally they turned to the gangs.
As the 1980s dawned, the gang began branching out into Chicago's poor neighborhoods, spreading its brand of capitalism.
Those same areas, you know, where they lack economic stimulus.
While some members got legitimate jobs, the rest sold drugs.
For the most part, that is what keeps them together, is the drug business.
The Satan disciples created a structure to control the flow of money. Cash flowed from street dealers to the set bosses, eventually all the way up to the king.
Once you sell narcotics, yes, you're going to be making money for yourself, but also you're going to have to pitch some back in. You're going to have to pay something back to the gang.
The temptation of the beast, you slip and lose your grip and forever fall asleep. The venom is contagious, be wary of its spell. What you thought would be heaven turns out to be hell. I wonder if she knows the devil's taking off her clothes deep into her soul. Stole, now he's in control, Papa's doing worse. A victim of the deadly curse, wouldn't be the first to leave the ghetto in a hearse. Oh, and how it hurts. The children pay the biggest price, never gets the chance to grow up with a happy life. Blame it on the rock, but we know that's a bunch of crap. Someone from the top supplying us with plenty crap, keep them in a daze. Don't let them see the other way, let them all get paid. Won't live to see another day. See, they never got a breath of the sunshine. Now the kids addicted and only hit it one time. We're destined to be dead as a nation. Don't let it come to this. Resist the temptation.
Today, I'm gonna fill you in on the connections between the Illuminati and your local street gangs. Alright, yo. So me and Rat grew up poor as fuck, right? And, you know, hanging out in the streets and shit, get mixed up with the quote-unquote wrong crowd or whatever, you know, and, you know, we got into gangbanging and shit, and, you know, we used to hang out with Sureño Treses and a bunch of Crip niggas and shit, and so I know a little bit about gangbanging, right? And now I got older, and, you know, I'm wiser now, and I've been looking around and stuff, and I started investigating the New World Order and the Illuminati, and I gotta tell you, man, there's some strong similarities between the two. It almost makes me think that the Illuminati runs the gang system of America. So let's start off with initiation. Here we have a couple pics of a Skull and Bones initiation. And here we have some Freemasonic initiation. And here we have some gang initiations. Get initiated in both secret societies and in the gangs. You gotta, you know, come in at the bottom of the pyramid. You gotta do your dirt. You gotta put in work. You gotta pay your dues, and you work your way up the pyramid, right? You start out in, you know what I'm saying, you start out on the streets as a YG, and you get jumped in, and you do, you know what I'm saying, you respect your OGs and you do what they tell you to do, and you prove that you're down, and you move up in the ranks and you become a G, and then you're a G for a couple of years, and you put in some more work and you do what, you know, you're supposed to do, and then you become an OG, and then nobody in the gang can fuck with you, and it works the same way with secret societies. Alright, so speaking of degrees, let's talk about the two main branches of Freemasonry. The York Rite, which we can see here, has 13 degrees, or 13 steps, or 13 levels, and the Scottish Rite, as we can see here, has 33 degrees. This is very interesting because two of the main Hispanic gangs, Mara Salvatrucha, or MS-13, and Sureño Trece, both have 13 as their signifying number. And Tre Crips, one of the bigger Crip gangs, uses 33 as its signifying number. So in other words, 3 of the most predominant gangs out there all use numbers sacred in Freemasonry as their identifying numbers. Alright, let's move on to hand signs. Everybody's seen, you know what I'm saying, rap videos or the gangster movies. Everybody knows what gang signs are. Everybody's been, you know, it's so popular now. Even when you got white chicks throwing up gang signs on the internet now. So, yeah. Basically, the Illuminati got hand signs too. You can see some Freemasons doing their hand signs right here. And you can see George Bush throwing up his devil horns, or, you know, his hook'em horns, because he's from Texas or whatever. Real big Texan. He ain't even from Texas. But whatever. But, you know, why the fuck is Bill Clinton throwing it up? Or why the fuck is Dan Quayle throwing it up? Or other world leaders? You know what I'm saying? These people aren't from Texas. Why are these people throwing up the hook'em horns? Speaking of the devil horns, as you can see here, the Latin Kings, another really big street gang, they use the devil horns to signify their gang. Also, they use the crown, which anybody who studies the Illuminati knows that the crown represents the sun, or it's sun worship. And what do we have here? It's a few people you might recognize doing a Masonic handshake.
Okay, thank you for being here. Look at that. Now.
Alright, this is some shit from Folk Nation, one of the larger Crip gangs. And as you can see, they tend to use the Star of David that the Zionists are associated with. And if you look at this picture, you can see the Star of David, a pitchfork, a backward swastika, and if you look closely, you'll see 3 hidden 6s in there as well. And what about biker gangs? Biker gangs use a lot of the same symbolism of the Illuminati too. Take a look at this, the skull and bones. Have you not seen this on many bikers' jackets? Or what about this? It's the Cross of the Knights of Malta, a secret society that hardly anybody even talks about. And you see it everywhere in biker culture, even on West Coast choppers. Okay, so if my theory is correct, and the Illuminati created or helped, you know, steer along the path that the gang movement went down, how would this be possible? Well, let's take a look at it. Most of the street gangs work for or underneath the bigger crime families. Like Sureño 13 pretty much does all of the dirty work that Laime needs to get done, you know what I'm saying? So, and I'm sure this works with a lot of the other street gangs as well. They're either working for or they're emulating what the bigger crime families are doing. So, let's look at the bigger crime families. Well, this is where it gets deep. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't want to touch this, but what are most of the bigger crime families? What are most of the Sicilian crime families? What are most of the Hispanic or the Mexican mafia crime families? What are most of the Italian crime families? They're all Roman Catholic. And if you've done any kind of real investigation into this, you can't turn a blind eye to the Vatican. You know that the Vatican has a huge role in the Illuminati. For God's sake, they invented the fucking Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit priest. He's the one that pulled all of the families together in Europe and created the idea of the Illuminati. So basically, that's how I think it happened. The Roman Catholic Church working through the crime families, working through the street gangs. They flooded the streets with guns. They flooded the streets with drugs through the CIA and through other organizations to create problems, you know what I'm saying, to create chaos. You flood the streets with guns and crack, and you set up a situation where the problem, the poor people, the worthless, or, you know what I'm saying, the useless eaters, you know, they eliminate themselves. They get themselves locked in the private prisons for profit, where they work making Adidas and New Balance shoes for 32 cents a day, and 16 cents of that 32 cents goes to pay restitution. And, you You know what I'm saying? Then you got everybody out there killing themselves, killing each other, and basically they take a movement that like the Black Panthers started where they were trying to empower people, and basically they turn it into something where we're just killing ourselves, we're killing each other, we're killing our brothers and our sisters, and we're doing it without any thought because we're told that that's the way life is, and we just accept it just like everybody else does.
Are symbols. Are you aware that that I have been talking to some doctors in Los Angeles who have been doing some research on this, and I find it to be absolutely fascinating that many of the gangs, the Latino and the black gangs in the major cities across America, their graffiti that they are spraying on buildings, their graffiti are actually Masonic emblems and Masonic seals and symbols. And I have seen a whole collection that these doctors have. These are medical doctors, but they are interested in this subject. And they have been collecting hundreds of pictures of graffiti and showing the research into the ancient secret societies. And there's no way that these black and Latino gangs could know these symbols. There's definitely a connection between the gangs and some sort of a higher orchestrated mind behind the warfare going on between gangs. I don't think those gangs are by chance. I think they have been nurtured and orchestrated and promoted and even financed. I mean, if you think about it, how those gangs have money to travel around, they can buy guns, they can roam around, they don't have to work. Where are they getting their money from?
Well, not only that, but their main occupation is the narcotics business and fomenting chaos, confusion, and fear.
Right.
And they haven't got the background of understanding, learning to put together the kind of logistics network that it would take to supply this kind of an enterprise.
Absolutely.
So someone with an awful lot of money, an awful lot of organization, and absolute ability to provide 100% protection is supplying these city gangs. It's not the mafia.
You can bet.
This is a very sophisticated, a totally protected organization.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the San Francisco Chronicle had 2 full pages in one of their newspapers I still have, where they were talking about how this federal government was bringing in narcotics from Asia during the Vietnam War in the bodies of American servicemen that were being killed in Vietnam, and they were bringing in bags of pure heroin and pure narcotics from Asia in the bodies of American servicemen. And what were they doing with it? They were giving it directly to the mafia, because the mafia is doing little tricks for the government. It takes care of business for the government, so they have to be paid.
Well, let's clarify one thing here. It's not the government. It is these secret societies who
are operating behind our government.
That's correct. And this between
government and the mafia.
That is right.
It's going to become quite obvious to anyone who looks into anything I say. I challenge you. As a matter of fact, I will give $10,000 to anyone who can prove these connections wrong, the key points in this video wrong. That's how sure I am. And I'm not a rich person. I know this beyond any doubt. The first brain dead obvious connection is sports. Okay, Sugar Ray Robinson, on record, Freemason. No Freemason denies it. Nobody denies it. Shaquille O'Neal, on record, Freemason. No Freemason denies it. Nobody denies it. Okay. Now, in all these sports, you know, you have gang members. Boxing, some people who are boxers are gang members. Maybe not the top boxers, maybe not the most famous boxers, but gang members include boxing includes gang members. Basketball includes gang members. Some of you, I don't know why you wouldn't understand that, but football includes gang members and thugs. You know, just recently in the news, this guy Aaron Hernandez just got found guilty of murder, and he had done several shootings in the past. I would be very surprised if he wasn't a gang member, though I don't know what gang he's from. But blatantly, there's gang members in the NFL, former NFL, etc. Okay, blatant connection to Masonry and gangs. Okay, whether it's a direct connection, a gang member who's a Mason, who plays professional sports, or whether it's an indirect connection, the teammate of a Freemason in professional sports. There's a connection, and it's a pretty solid one. Now, to me, the more dramatic connection is what I'm about to explain to you. First, let me answer a question that was given to me by a fellow targeted individual. She says, it seems like they're also the real leaders of street gangs these days. Do you agree? I said, yes. Either that or they collaborate with them, referring to the leaders, to get someone friendly to their cause and power. The Mexican Mafia is one of the most powerful criminal groups that controls all Sereno gangs and MS-13 gangs for the most part in the country. Is modeled after the Italian Mafia. The Italian Mafia is known for collaborating with Jewish gangsters, the CIA, the military, Freemasons, and so on. The Mexican Mafia admits it is modeled after them, and I have seen them working with mental health to run psych-offs on people, including myself. Same thing with biker gangs, called symbolism. Hell's Angels, for example, etc. And some of them are Jewish. Then Jews were the main group of people who started communism, and the black guerrilla family is communist for the most part, and the Norteños tend to have communist ideologies and leanings. The structure of control starts in the prison gangs, who tend to control the street gangs. I could go on forever about the gangsta disciples in Chicago using their symbolism, and all other major Chicago gangs, which is the other place besides California that gangbanging really started. You know, and it's really hard for some people to swallow that people involved in a great conspiracy that controls society would do time in prison. You know, that is hard for people to swallow. Well, look at the, I believe it was the five families, the heads of the five families of the Mafia. I believe they're in jail right now. A couple years ago, there was the Gambino family indictment. I think it was 80-something Gambino family members. You know, it is not uncommon or out of the ordinary for members of the conspiracy, especially the more criminal members, to do time in prison. Not uncommon at all. They tend to have it easy in prison. They tend to get women and drugs and the things they want a lot easier than other people in prison. And I shouldn't have to explain why that is. The Jews are some of the main people in the Freemasonic conspiracy. You know, the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, especially. And then you have other people, you know, Zuckerberg, Zuckerman. You'll see that Jews are strategically located, and there's no way that they're not in on the conspiracy. It's literally impossible. The powerful Jews, the secret society Jews, especially the Zionist Jews. You know, it's about having us compartmentalized, turning us against each other so we don't have power. You know, if they just controlled us all together and there wasn't movements that didn't get along, then there would have been a very high likelihood that we would unite against them, which is their worst nightmare. You know, there's about 6 million Masons is what they claim in the world, right? And there's, what, 7-8 billion people? So, you know, they're walking on thin ice if you look at it from one aspect. But in another way, they collaborate with a lot of people. A lot of people are under control. They're the heads of the movements. The movements that you would expect to go against them, they control. But ultimately, this is controlled opposition. We're looking at all controlled opposition. Gang members and prison gangs are controlled, quote-unquote, opposition. Okay? That's what we have here. Unholy alliance of vested interest, controlled opposition. We're compartmentalized, and Illuminati symbols, devils, you know, hawks and eagles and snakes and, you know, dragons, you know, Illuminati symbol. There isn't one major gang in America that doesn't use Illuminati symbolism.
Get good, y'all. Brett. No, where was I before I just sneezed my fucking brains out? So, those the gangster sets. Now, I think I told you before how Minister Fontaine and Larry Hoover got cool when they was in jail. So, Minister Fontaine brought the idea to David. And King David Barksdale, he liked the idea of clicking up all the sets in the Inglewood area, in most of the South Side, to make the Black Gangster Disciples. David threw this meeting, and this was the most important meetings of all. And this would make one of the strongest brotherhoods ever known in gang history. Now, this is when it gets good. Now, the meeting was on 64th in Halsted. Now, for you to know the area, you like, yo, that's Kennedy King College. Now, I'm finna blow your fucking mind with some real history. Now, this coming out of Gordon's mouth. So Gordon tells me, you know what Kennedy King at, right? And I said, yeah, I know what Kennedy King at. So he said, it's a field across the street. I know the field. And it's a building right there. And in that building is where we had our first meeting. So I'm like, where? No, that's cool. What's special about the building? He showed me his ring. So I didn't pay no attention. I just looked at the ring like, get that thing out of my face, nigga. I want to see that shit. So I dipped. Now I went to go check the building out because I used to go to school at Kennedy King because I was going to take a GED course, but I got sidetracked, you should say. And it was a Masonic temple. The building, like, it haven't been touched in 20 years. Like, it's so old. It looks fucking raggedy, man. It's a big building. I mean, you could tell it got the old brick in it. When you look inside, you can't see shit. Like, the building looks totally deserted. It's spooky. I went back and talked to him, like, yo, I went to it. Man, I think it's a Masonic temple. Then he showed me the ring again. He said, yeah, that's what it was. That's what it still is. Now, he's a Mason. Okay? Now, he tells me the rest of the story. So we had a meeting here, and I'm like, hold on. So how did the Black Gangster Disciples get to rent the building for the night? Like, who rents a building to different gangs? Now, you gotta remember, David was, his name hold weight. You know what I'm saying? He was the king of all kings. You understand? Larry Hoover, the chairman of the board. Yeah, I'm familiar. I know you're familiar with the power Larry Hoover holds to today. So it just always got me like, what happened? So I ended up asking him, was King David and Larry Hoover Masons at that age? And he gave me a smirk. He gave me the craziest look. He like a giggle, you know what I'm saying? And he never answered. That was the end of the conversation. That's all he told me. You know what I'm saying? He told me stories, how they fought, how they used to rumble, they didn't use guns. If you did have a gun, they didn't have to use it. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of shit that niggas know. You know what I'm saying? We know what happened back then. But I just could not understand what was going on. And then I look at a lot of the symbols with the gang, as far as disciples and the people. And a lot of them comes from the Mason doctrine. And it really gets me. Some of the laws is in the Masons rule book. So, I mean, it's good enough to say that BGD was started by Freemasons. BGD was started by Freemasons. BGD was started by Freemasons. This is when it gets good. Now, the meeting was on 64th in Halsted. 64th in Halsted.
Still here on the scene, we're still gathering information, but we are told that the 32-year-old mother was shot right outside of Dulles Elementary School, which is here in the corner of 63rd and Calumet.
Now, right there. And in that building is where we had our first meeting. And it was a Masonic temple.
Amongst the property seizures and dizzyingly large cocaine busts, a few strange details went under the radar. For one, how a batch of coke that had made its way from South America was stamped with a logo featuring an eye and a compass, the universally known symbol of Freemasonry. It wasn't a one-off. Further packets revealed the same symbol alongside the Greek letter Alpha and Omega. For some, it sparked concern about an increasing coziness between mob bosses and Masonic lodges across southern Italy, with their alleged rogues gallery of corrupt senior police officers, grasping politicians, and local business elites. Just how deep does it go? Also look at the alleged links between Italian mafia groups and the country's Masonic lodges, a connection that has a long, if not always entirely clear-cut, history.
We have to keep in mind that the Freemasonry and the Mafia have many things in common. Like the Freemasonry, the Mafia has initiation rituals and rules of behavior rooted in secrecy.
In Italy, the bond between Freemasonry and Mafia groups in the South has a long, complicated history. In 2017, a series of police raids discovered 193 high-ranking members of the Sicilian Mafia and the Calabrian 'Ndrangheta to be members of lodges across the South. According to the work of dogged prosecutors and the testimony of mob turncoats, the secrecy of Masonic lodges provided the perfect place to conduct shady deals with figures from the business and political elite. Later, a series of local lodges in Calabria were dissolved after discovery of mobsters on their books. Are the 'Ndrangheta and other mafia groups deeply embedded within the contemporary Italian Freemasons?